Hi, I'm David King, the editor and associate publisher of The Collaborative. And welcome back to the CollabCast, joined again by Katie Cusack, our editor and page designer, and Mike Vitali of Magnetic Eye Records, Ironweed, formerly Vansha Chakra, and what else? You do a lot of stuff, man.
Those are basically most of the bands that I played in since being in the area. I was also in a band, Great Day for Up.
Yep,
with a guy,
Great Day for Up.
Yep, with a guy, Mike Langone, was a singer in that band. And currently, what is kind of nice is I've been carving out some time and getting back together with Mike and some other guys working on a new project, which doesn't yet have a name, and we've only had like 5 or 6 rehearsals, but we started demoing and stuff. And I'm really excited because we actually booked a show down in Brooklyn for July just to get something on the books and get back out, you know? I mean, I haven't played out in like 8 years or something, so
Wow.
I don't know. You know, 'cause it's actually like ever since I started the record label, I've done a total of 0 shows.
Well, it's become quite a thing, and people who follow you on social media probably know that you're promoting this thing all the time. You've got a lot going on, and I think I wrote about you for the Alt 2 years ago. We also did something for the Collaborative recently about the Pink Floyd redo. But, you know, it seemed like you were in a position where you're considering whether this needs to get a lot bigger or so.
Right, for sure. So, you know, I mean, the first couple of years was pretty simple because ultimately, you know, when you decide you're going to do a record label and you get together with like a couple of bands and, you know, a few people, you know, you sell not a lot. So you're not spending a lot of time at the post office. And it's kind of simple to understand what you're doing. And it's really like a passion project, you know, but as I started doing it the first couple of years and really started getting some contracts and distribution, you know, I've onboarded some staff, so it's been great because as it's grown, I've also been able to, you know, work with some guys, like we ship out of Brooklyn, and the guy that runs the label's out in Albuquerque, and he's actually, Jad Schickler has a history of being in Meteor City, like a record label out that way that was really foundational with like Stoner Rock and Desert Music.
Caius.
Right, you know, so Jad is a tremendous asset, and it's all really resulted in the label, you know, growing to a point where you can envision it being much larger and being like a, you know, a real company, an institution or whatever in that regard. But there's still a lot of work to do between here and there, you know, and the bigger it gets, the more you have to focus on the business aspects and the finances, and it's really tough sometimes, I think, to juggle all the creative and that, you know, and that's why I think the first 8 years of having the label, I couldn't even really do anything for myself beyond like all the stuff I was devoting to the label because it's just tough to adjust, right? But now I'm kind of getting to the point where, you know, I've got some partnerships and then also joined with Over It and Dan Dinsmore. So that's really putting even more structure into the business and the back-end operation stuff like related to accounting and contracting and stuff. So I think we're in a good position, you know, and it's hard to know like really how much further we'll get, you know, but right now it's been a lot of fun and, you know, we certainly appreciate all the different support we get from, you know, people all over the place.
Well, so for folks who don't know, I mean, essentially, Magnetic Eye puts out records by bands with big effing riffs, lots of drums, and play, you know, I mean, it's a kind of rock and roll that does a lot for me. And then, so you've got bands like Domcraft and I believe Ghastly Sound is, are they still? And I'm sorry,
Elephant Tree, and Summoner, and all these bands.
Yeah, and so I mean, I was around when you were playing shows in the area, and Ironweed was a little more active, and I was familiar with the label. And then I think it was like 4 years ago, I was listening, you know, just discovering stuff on Bandcamp, and Domcraft came up, and I'm like, I really dig this. I'm like, holy, it's Magnetic Eye. So for me, it was like this revelation that it was going on right here in some ways, and these guys are Sweden?
They're from Sweden. Swedish Doom.
So that was really cool, but the other part of the label that's been getting a lot of attention lately are the redos. And so you've done a Hendrix one, which is really neat. The Pink Floyd one just last year now came out.
Yeah, it came out in November.
And you've had some major artists from Mark Lanigan, Melvins, and I should say Low Flying Hawks are on label too, who are
right, and that's part Melvin.
Yeah, part Melvin.
And
this mystery project, which is amazing. I mean, it's one of the I think most vital outfits. I don't know what you want to call them in the genre right now.
Current scene, sure.
So anyway, but it's great because you get some of these bands from your label on with these larger, more established people from the genre, and you get exposure. But I know for you, you've said that it's about getting these classic albums in front of people again who might not have ever actually had the chance to live it.
Right. I mean, it's kind of funny with like the music industry, and a lot of the PR that you see or articles you see about listening habits. I'm well aware that everybody's listening habits change. Mine do too, with a phone and everything else. And, as it gets more isolated and I got headphones in and I'm just listening by myself and streaming, all that kind of behavior really made me think like, holy cow, like what I really loved is just like sitting around. There was like a huge, basically like this big furniture turntable thing in my house. My parents had records. Me and my brother would like spin records or whatever, but I always loved, especially as I got older, discovering things like, Electric Ladyland and really listening to the whole thing, right? Or Miles Davis' Bitches Brew, where you're just kind of like absorbed into this like 60-minute kind of like musical film almost, And as things go on, and as I watch the value of musicianship or the craft, and I watch people's attention span and like all the distractions, you just think, oh my God, what could I do as a label owner or a musician to kind of work in the other direction or to kind of establish my feelings about this stuff. And I just remember the moment that I was like, oh my God, the thing that would make the most sense is taking like Jimi Hendrix's Electric Ladyland and literally covering the whole record in full. And, it kind of just coincided with like another real interest of and reason for starting the label was to kind of establish a community. Because I think one of the reasons that musicians get so taken advantage of is there's not really any communities. There's a lot of transient communities. There's a lot of people with egos. There's a lot of like, tough stuff with music. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. I've been playing since I'm 13. I know like so much stuff about how squirrely musicians can kind of be or whatever. And doing those albums and doing them completely and then getting a community to come on board and kind of have that same vision. Oh man, let's show everybody how awesome Jimi Hendrix is and listening to a full record as opposed to this like real BS idea. Like, let's just stream stuff on Spotify and we're gonna have so much fun. And we're gonna look out real rich windows at 4, World Trade Center in New York City, work at Spotify. It's so great. Oh my God, my mood is so awesome all the time. It's just this crazy thing that Spotify is selling. I mean, it's like literally damaging to music and musicians and musicianship and the craft and the industry and the institutions that like literally founded so much of our culture. And to me, it's an outrage. But so those records really are just a great way to, just
Well, we have seen a movement, I think. I mean, obviously, we know vinyl's picking up again.
Yep.
Huge.
Sure.
And it's been, everyone says, you see a story every couple of months that vinyl's cool again. Yeah. And it's been that way. And obviously, we see the market picking up. And you've been selling vinyl to folks for a while now. So does it give you some faith that folks are looking to be consumed?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely think that, I'm certainly not the only one that reacts in this way about, Spotify or just kind of, the changes. And, these changes aren't necessarily bad. Music's going to always continue to have, like, a lot of different roles in people's life, And I think the one thing that's going to benefit from, all this technology and all those changes is the continued, support and movement back to like tape and playing live and really like investing the time in it. It's just like just because you got a billion songs doesn't mean that one of them's worth listening to twice in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so, was it earlier this year or late last year that you kicked off the Kickstarter for Alice in Chains?
Sure. Yeah. So, one thing that I've always loved is a lot of bands like Alice in Chains or Faith No More. The band is so unique because of the vocals and the vocal style. Lane Staley has always been like a real... I've always really loved his singing and everything. I've started to have like mixed feelings though as time goes on, like in terms of doing things to like honor people that, I don't know, like Kurt Cobain killing himself or these guys really overdosing on drugs. It's kind of like this weird thing where like after a while, I just don't feel like, oh my God, I don't really want to elevate this person because it's just so tragic and really like, makes more sense to, I don't know, try to support or put energy towards people that aren't dead. You know what I mean? Because they're like taking care of themselves as examples. But so the Alice in Chains, I've always been a huge fan, and especially of his vocal style. So it'd be very interesting to see what, all those bands can kind of bring to that material.
So you got an interesting lineup for that.
Sure.
You've got Bellwitch, who are one of my favorite acts. They're a two-piece bass and drums that do this really ethereal sort of, I don't know. Anyway, it's very cool.
Yeah.
You got Chemists, a bunch of folks on that. And then pretty quickly afterwards, you did another Kickstarter and you're launching this Black Sabbath.
Got this whole like Black Sabbath kick just because, I'm not really sure like how many I'll do in the series because it is kind of a balance. We do have a record label with like all these artists that are making great records, and I certainly don't want to overshadow that, with all these comps. But kind of one of the ways that I look at it is like, a lot of times it feels like the world is like this big or this circle of customers that know the label, and then oftentimes I realize there's like such a larger world, and sometimes I think that the Redux records, if it's something that's known and it has some bands that people kind of are familiar with, it kind of introduces us to them, and then for the more diehards or the folks that are really following the label a little more, they might really kind of understand the core label sound, which is like Summoner and Horse Hunter and everything else. The one thing that's funny about the label is, although it's like a lot of heavy artists, most of them, especially the first bunch of bands that I went up signing, are all studio engineers too. So like one of the things that I always kind of really focused on was making sure that, these records are also just like sonically, have the same kind of thing, like the art and the music on there, like the engineering of it really has to be kind of like a masterpiece too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's been great though.
The Alice in Chains sort of made sense. I was listening to High Priest recently and thinking, well, that really makes sense for Alice in Chains. This is a band that plays the style that the label generally is known for, but they've got a guy who can sing and generally write songs rather than just be loud. And I do think that seems to be a crux of the label, and that folks who are putting together actual songs and can sing and do the whole thing. And then, some of the newer bands who are gaining in popularity, including one of my favorites, Out, they don't have a real singer. And Brian will say that. He screams, but, they work with folks who can sing. So it's interesting because you got this mix, obviously, of different styles of this same, it's a variation of genres, but it does draw people in. And I was talking to Brian about that their contribution, and I actually I knew of them for a long time, but I became a fan of theirs because they did a song for the who is it now? Well, they did a song for one of the first Nirvana compilations.
Okay, yeah. The one on Robotic Empire.
Robotic Empire, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Not Nevermind, but I forget what
In
they
Utero.
called it. I forget what they called it. I think it was Nevermind.
Yeah.
But it had some different name.
Yeah. They've done all of
Which
them
was
now.
great. Was Buildings on there too?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. I think there's, Big Business, Daughters. There's a bunch of bands that
Right.
have, even, what's his name? Jay Retard was on there. I mean, just a whole vast number of varied artists doing these Nirvana covers, but that was how I discovered a number of bands that I was really into. So I think they're valuable in getting folks,
Right.
For sure. Well, it's like doing that thing that like Spotify is trying to do, where it's like, we made a playlist for you based on what you're listening to, but like you're familiar with this album and you grew up with this album, or like you think you would like this album because it's been so popularized and like sort of like raised up as this holy thing. But it's like introducing you to a bunch of different bands, and so it's like doing it in a more efficient and like healthier way.
Right.
That's like respectful to the actual artists that are making the work.
Sure. And the nice thing too is one of the things that those comps have been able to do, because a lot of times they've been like crowdsourced or kickstarted, is it's really helped actually. Like sometimes I get kind of bummed out about the label not really generating enough to really pay artists substantially. You know what I mean? Like one of the reasons I even started this was to really figure out the business end, like how do you make money on music? And so sometimes I start thinking like I haven't really paid artists that much. And then I started remembering like a lot of these Kickstarters are great for the artists because nearly all the money, sometimes even more, go directly to the guys to get them in the studio and stuff too. So it's really good in that sense also,
So we were talking a little bit about this, but one of the things I didn't mention that you're involved in, which is also something a lot of people might know, Cats on Amps, which is a very popular meme in a lot of ways. I mean, you've been doing this for quite a while now. I mean, it caught on. And
so it's literally going to be about the 4-year anniversary, and basically the real quick backstory is like, I'm not a cat guy at all. Like I've never had a cat. I've had dogs.
What's wrong with you?
Listen,
I've had dogs my whole life, and I walked into a pet store, and this like cat is sitting there and staring at me the whole time, and me and my wife and my kids are laughing, and I just say I'm going to adopt this cat. So I adopt this cat, and her name's Dolce, and we take her home, and she's like a little kitten, like 9 or 10 months old or something, and they didn't know her birthday. But I have that Egyptian pharaoh hound, and so Dolce comes home and she's like terrified, so she runs like into the back room, and I got a bunch of amps back there or whatever, so she starts hanging out on the amp. So I take a picture of her on the amp, and I take a picture of Kiki like bothering her on the amp or whatever, and I start posting like Cats on Amps hashtag or whatever, and next thing you know, it's like literally just becoming bananas. So there's like a whole Instagram account, like all these followers, and every day people are sending like direct messages of pictures of their cat on their amp or video of their cat on their amp. I mean, some days I can't even scroll through all this stuff. Like I'll open up the Instagram and it'll be like, oh my God. And I've tried a couple of different things on how to like manage all this stuff too, because there's also like a Twitter and a Facebook or whatever. So Cats on Amps, there's a lot of people probably that send stuff and then they don't hear, so they like lose some of their love for the thing. But I definitely try to, at least on the Instagram platform, like write back to most people, just say thanks or send them a heart or something. But there's literally people putting tons of effort into it. I mean, they're having people have like set up professional photo shoots and stuff.
Wow.
And so that has been like nuts and real funny and fun. And like, I mean, Russian villages where like they seem like they're dirt poor and they got this tiny amp on a dirt floor and they're sending me a picture of their cat. I mean, usually those are so low pixel that I can't really post it. But,
that's so precious.
they come from like a cell phone that's like 15 years old. But as the phones get nicer, it gets super nice. And I'll tell you this real quick, funny thing. A couple of summers ago, I open up and I'm going through the DMs and stuff, and one of them was like such a great picture. I was like, what the? So it's this cat, and it's on this Marshall amp, and it comes from like the Hamptons, you know. So I'm just curious. I'm like, so I click on the guy's profile and I look around and I read the name, and then I'm Googling, and it's the I was fun to say this.
Like
it's
whispering.
the CEO of like Shutterstock, right? John Orrig. So he's like sending me his picture of his cat on his Marshall amp from the Hamptons, the guy that owns like the photo, you know,
Right.
like so it's just funny. It's like literally led to me meeting so many musicians, so many people from like
Yeah.
instrument manufacturing companies and all sorts of people. You know, and it's just crazy to the point where like we were selling our house like last year or whatever. So my realtor comes over, and it's the second time I used her. In like 13 years. So I haven't seen her in a long time. She comes over, we're chit-chatting. She sees some Cats on Amp stuff around, and she's like, oh, yeah, you know that stuff? And I'm like, oh, well, that's my Instagram account. And she's like, oh, my God, my daughter. And keep in mind, her daughter's like 30 years old or something, right? She's like, my daughter's got a bunch of Cats on Amp stuff. So it like literally happens like all the time, more and
Yeah.
more, where like, you know, they're just everywhere, the people with Cats on Amp stuff.
Well, speaking of people you know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are very excited 'cause Sleep are coming to town.
Oh, yeah.
And so you recently announced that Matt Pike of Sleep and High on Fire fame will be contributing to the Black Sabbath cover album,
Right.
which is completely appropriate, but it's...
Right, so he's doing some voodoo for the album, and
Yep.
it's like really hysterical the way it is, because the world really is so small. And you know, I mean, I'm obsessed with watching like all these music documentaries and stuff. And I don't know if you guys like watch, maybe it was called The Hitman or something, but it was about a lot of like Motown stuff. You know, and it's the same couple of musicians on
Right.
like all these records for all these artists. And, you know, music is kind of like that, too, where, you know, there's just Matt Pike and a certain number of guys doing all sorts of stuff. So anyway, you know, this is relevant because I'm putting together the Sabbath thing, and I'm thinking about, like, who would be right for this? Oh, my God, could you imagine if we get Sleep or High on Fire or whatever? And then I'm thinking to myself, you know, how do I get in touch with Matt Pike and all this other crap? And then I realized the guy literally started dating Alyssa Macera, who's an artist that I know for a long time. So she did the first two Summoner record covers, right? So like back in 2011 or whatever year it was, I was in communication with her a lot. We worked on that art together in that project. So I knew her, had her email, and we kept in touch a little bit over the years, you know, like on social media or whatever. But I never asked her anything about Matt Pike. And when I saw she was dating him, I didn't say, congratulations, you're dating Matt Pike or anything.
Congratulations.
You know, so, I mean, like, Matt Pike is just part of, like, everyone's life. The guy, like, literally spits out these riffs that are just, like, ridiculous. And so, obviously, doing Sabbath, and I know Alyssa, so I was like, oh, my God, let me write Alyssa. And I wrote her, and she's like, Matt's right here, hold on, you know? And next thing you know, it's like, hi, Matt, you know? I'm, like, talking to Matt Pike on the phone. And so he was pumped to be able to do the, you know, contribute FX and stuff. He's obviously got a lot of other stuff going on with like High on Fire, just winning the Grammy and everything else.
Sleep is behemoth again.
Yeah, I mean, Sleep is busy and they're active, and that's more Al's band. And then, you know, High on Fire is just like obviously real active and just busy. So it was great that he could do that, you know, and we'll see what happens down the road. But
And we should just, so this is a redux of Black Sabbath 4, and FX
Right.
is the track. Not he's not doing effects for all the
right.
folks
Yes,
who don't know.
yeah.
But
Yeah. And FX is like a minute and a half long kind of guitar noise song, track. So it'll be great to see what he does with that, you know.
And do you have timelines for these? Yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
have a
So I
sense
mean,
of-
everything's kind of moving really quick. For instance, Dan Dinsmore's band Owl, like Chris Weiss is going to be in town this weekend from LA, so he's recording in town and doing they're doing Children of the Grave Sabbath for like the best of record with that. So some folks are already getting in the studio. And
you got the Clay people on one of these too, right?
Clay people are doing Them Bones for Dirt, you know, so they're leading off that record. So I'm sure Dan will be in the studio soon for that. You know, but there's a bunch of bands, and Jad's coordinating most of the Dirt bands, and then some of these Sabbath bands. It's all scheduled to come out next April, but I'm really hoping by like Christmas time we can get one or two of these done.
Cool.
You know, because we actually do have like a lot of this stuff down to a pretty good science. But it really depends on the bands. I mean, when we did that Floyd record, it was literally collecting tunes from 27 bands for The Wall, and then like another 13 or 16 for the other records. So it's like, hi, let's talk to 45 bands and get their
and stay
tunes.
on them about
Right. But everybody's like, the thing is, everybody's pumped, so they're getting it done, which is great. So
for sure.
yeah.
Exciting.
And so, if folks want to get involved, pick up the records.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Kickstarters are done, but
Yep. So our main website is merhq.net. So that's the equivalent of like Magnetic Eye Records HQ headquarters, whatever. So merhq.net, and from there, you can navigate to like the radio station we got. So we have a radio station, an iPhone app, and we've kind of played around with like live broadcasting on there, having people call in. Like I was telling you guys before we started taping about just testing this like 800 number in California, and just going on Instagram and telling Cats on Amps people, hey, does anybody want to call in and talk about their cat or their gear? And then actually taking the calls live on the air. So you could be sitting there on your iPhone listening to Mike Vitali like take unscripted calls. And I did that a couple of times last year, and it was a ton of fun. But ultimately what happened is like iPhone changed their jacks, you know what I mean?
Oh my God, it's so annoying.
Which totally ruins my whole life, because like all this stuff like home recording demos for music, and then getting like your podcast or radio broadcast to go through and show up on the phone. I mean, it's like this very delicate ecosystem where like once you get it, you need like no software or hardware to change. And like the phone's literally just changed, and I went up with a new phone and I didn't have the right adapters. And I'm just like, I don't know.
It's annoying.
I know it is a real pain, but
It's
I'll get it back.
when like I'll be on the train and I can't charge my phone and listen to music at the same time. And
Right.
I'm coming for you, Apple.
Right.
yeah, when I was commuting the city, like every couple weeks, and I suddenly realized that I couldn't put I had to buy Bluetooth speakers. I was enraged. I switched.
Right.
And then it broke my brain, and I had to go back to Apple because it programmed me.
Right. You can't get away.
But But one question I had, just in terms of the Spotify, thing.
Sure. Yeah.
You do a lot on Bandcamp. Is that better? How much better is that for artists?
So Bandcamp is great for artists. Bandcamp does not provide well, I mean, I guess it has. I guess you can stream in-app and stuff. So I guess it's very equivalent in that way. I don't know if their discovery, and everything is exactly the same.
What I appreciate about it is they have journalists actually writing about the music, so it does pay journalists to do some work, and we have some friends that write for it. So it's that's nice, but it's obviously not as sophisticated.
Right. Well, one of the main, I guess, differences right off the bat would be Bandcamp is sort of the public uploaded catalog and material, while Spotify would represent, this much wider, catalog that would include known traditional artists, right? So you'd hear Motown and all that stuff on there, where Bandcamp doesn't have any of that.
Yeah.
But Bandcamp, in terms of artist friendliness and everything, is literally the best thing for artists. And I was a little bummed. It's funny the way it worked, I guess, is more the way to say it. The first couple of years I started out, I'm setting up a website, and I'm kind of trying to get into Bandcamp, and while I'm dealing with my website and e-commerce through there, right, I'm saying, I don't really want to sell on Bandcamp because I got, at the time, a Shopify store and all this other stuff going on. So I was primarily selling through my site, but then after a little bit, you say, man, this does seem like a great service. So when I did start getting more involved with Bandcamp, I had waited the first couple of years, but it was great when I did, because there's really so much community there. And concentration of interest in musicians. And the other thing that's great is, it's funny, the company contacted the label at some point after a couple of years saying, hey, we noticed you're really a unique user of the way you're using your Bandcamp account, because they didn't have label accounts or anything at the time.
Right.
So I had taken an artist account and kind of jammed it with all this, all these artists. And they were kind of noticing, and they were looking to kind of upgrade. So over the course of a couple of months, I had a couple of meetings with them where we did some user acceptance testing or whatever, and they were rolling out their subscription service and also their kind of like label accounts. So it was nice because, I kind of understood what they were putting in place. And so we've had a very strong relationship with them, especially since then. And as they've grown and given better tools that kind of match what a record label needs, they've been a really big partner,
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know, especially for folks who might be becoming more familiar with Spotify's practices as more people speak out and,
Right.
as they're trying to cut down payments to artists.
Right. Well, and so that's what's funny too is so there's been some legislation and there's been certain things that have happened which, in theory, on paper, in the bills would benefit the artists. Some of the people that are involved with the agencies and methods to kind of administer the new rates and oversee it are some folks from Sound Exchange, and Sound Exchange is, I don't know if it's publicly funded, but it's a service that's supposed to get money to artists, and Sound Exchange is notoriously like inept at doing that. Even when you're kind of me, and for 2 years I had my wife attempt because I was like, maybe there's just something wrong with the way like I'm doing the paperwork or the account. I mean, they seem to like delete it or lose it, and so she did it for a while, and literally some of these companies or services almost find, a person that they can put at a desk that will answer a phone and say, sorry, there's no manager, there's nothing I can do. You just need to go to the website or whatever, and keep you in a circle. When, I literally put about 6 or 7 years into trying to, properly register and get payments from Sound Exchange. And 1 month we got one $78 payment, and we were like, wow, I can't believe it. And nothing has happened ever again. And it's like, if you understood, and this is why historically, a lot of musicians are just illiterate in terms of their performance rights and what they need to do and where their revenue streams are. And even if you're not illiterate and you're totally competent and you have staff and you're like investing time and money and you're filling out these documents and you work with attorneys and you do all this stuff, even when you're in those positions, it's very difficult to get the money that is even attributable to the stuff you're working with, unless you're a much bigger player. So that's one of the other major issues that I'm kind of bumping into, is like had some success with Bandcamp, put together some good projects, sell some good stuff on my website, have bands touring and this international roster that has value, this catalog of over 1,000 songs. It's great. So here I am almost 10 years, as I continue to try to, get involved with royalties and collect money, you just start saying like, they make it's set up to be very challenging. Yeah. And, to get any bigger, we got to continue to figure out how to get better at doing this kind of stuff, because they don't make it easy for the artists. A lot of this stuff, they talk about how artist-friendly all this technology is and how easy it is, but it literally hides tons of, any earnings, really.
Yeah.
But it's always been historically, I guess, tough, for musicians. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
It's been a delight. Yeah.
On that note.
Yeah. And let me ask you guys what you guys got coming up here on the podcast, right? Because it's like the spring. What do we got? It's April. Do you guys plan ahead?
Do we plan ahead?
Well, of course you do. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Confidentially to everyone who's watching.
Confidentially to everyone.
We've been, we're heading into the Creatives Under 40 issue, and a number of those folks may have already been on the podcast.
Yep.
In fact, we may have just taped one with them, but can't say it,
all right.
publicly.
And then let me ask you guys one more question before you can bounce me.
Yeah. No.
So what episode number is this, and what season? How's this work?
This is season 1.
Okay.
Because we just started the collaborative, for those who don't know, in November.
Yeah. We didn't print our first issue until January.
Right. But we worked on that first issue for a very long time, but it came out in December,
February.
January. Whatever it was. you guys can go look
So
it
your
up.
guys' first issue just came out at the beginning of this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
But so we started filming podcasts in like November though.
Yeah.
So we
Gotcha.
started like when we
So you're
started
talking
as an
about issue
organization.
or episode?
Episodes.
Well,
This will
because they're two
be-
different things, right?
Yeah.
So this
yours will be episode 18.
cool.
Yeah,
Look at
right?
that. Wow.
Pretty solid. And then
That
on
is,
top of
yep.
that, we have collaborative arts videos, which is with. This is a nice little plug. Thank you.
Yeah.
With
Mike's teaching us
artists
a lesson.
that we're
Listen, I know
covering,
nothing. Okay, I can guarantee that.
which we just started up. So
And, we
we'll
had-
feature artists, and then we also are doing 3 songs videos with local artists or
Oh,
like
cool.
artists that come through.
Wow. Do they have to be good? The artists?
No.
Do they have to be good?
Like,
Yes,
can I
they have to
bring
be-
my combo amp and like you guys would let me play?
Yeah, come through.
Okay, well we'll talk about that
We'll talk
later.
about
Yeah,
it.
offline. Okay.
But
But
just-
yeah, who did we just have?
We just had Thou and
No.
Emma.
I didn't.
Oh yeah, see what I mean? Like these are really
No,
good
no.
artists.
Well,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have local groups, and
Oh, we just
before
had
that,
before that Chris Cool Peoples, who's a Schenectady-based hip hop artist
Okay.
and producer.
and we had Olivia Quillo and
Yep, singer-songwriter,
The Age, and we also featured recently the video from Chateau.
Yes. We had Blue Ranger. We didn't have them in our venue. We went and filmed it at Chateau, which is a Albany DIY.
But yeah, our next 3 songs will be Thou and Emma Ruth Rundle, and they were in on Thursday.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. How was it?
No,
Awesome?
no, it was
beautiful.
It was very beautiful. But you know what? They're a lot like us in that they weren't really ready.
Oh wow.
It was great.
Yeah, well, hey, it's a good experience, right?
Well,
It's
it's
all
great
good.
because it's like fly off the seat of your
Yeah.
pants. You know, like we
Yeah.
got there, we had to sort of like do this makeshift venue. I know we posted sort of just like a teaser image on Instagram, and somebody had commented like, "Did you guys change venues because we usually film in this space, but we were actually in the same room. We had just shifted towards the wall
Okay.
because the Armory space where we film, they had an event happening that same day.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah.
But it was
It
set
was-
up as a speakeasy,
yeah, set up. as
so
a
there was like
speakeasy.
this vibe.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So we were sort of situated ourselves in this corner, and we stole all of their rugs and set
To
it up.
deaden the sound a little bit
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was Thou and
Yeah.
and they were going to play it quiet or acoustic, but
Right.
they did
That's
not
not what
show
happened.
prepared for that. That's
Oh,
why. So
okay.
they decided last minute go loud.
Okay.
And it was loud.
It was loud.
As they are.
I bet.
As they do.
Yeah.
It was nice and
And
loud.
So you go to sleep, right?
yeah.
Okay. Yep. We'll all be there. Yep.
Great.
And then last question for you guys. Final question. So is Kiki still working with you guys?
Oh,
over
yeah.
there? Yeah, man. Kiki's
Unreal.
Been working with Kiki?
Well, no, but
No?
she
Oh,
did those
she did
pictures.
yours- right.
She did the pictures.
Yeah.
For the alt.
Yeah, well, so
Yes.
we can't say enough good things. We'll take this chance to say amazing things.
Yeah,
Kiki is an amazing local
And
photographer.
and when I met her, I said, I can't believe it. You have the same name as my Egyptian pharaoh. I mean, like, what are the chances? You know.
Yeah,
So,
she's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway,
does
she
really
takes
cool work.
great photos.
and she right now, I think she's still doing it for ADCO all the
Yep.
time, and she does it for us as well.
Yeah.
So,
And she's a lot of work for us.
but she's all over every show you could think she's at. She was at Thou, so she has
Yeah.
lots of Thou photos coming up, which we
Awesome.
can't wait to share. But
Okay.
anyway,
Well,
we'll send you
great.
some for
Thank
the album.
you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Great coming.
Thank you for
Okay.
coming on and asking us some questions.
Yeah,
Wow,
This is new.
You
Never
bet.
happened before.
Anytime. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.